have some questions ready to go as well. So Ivka is the founder and chief investment officer of Promethos Capital, a majority women-owned global asset management boutique based in Boston. She's an accomplished investor with over two decades experience managing global and international equity portfolios, including significant sustainable investing expertise. Ivka was ranked the #3 portfolio manager in the US and among the top 20 female managers in the world by CityWire in 2018. And she's accomplished a lot since. Before starting Promethos in early 2019, Ivka was lead portfolio manager of international strategies at Boston Advisors, where she launched and managed a top-ranked international fund. Prior to joining Boston Advisors, Ivka was a senior portfolio manager at Pax World Management, where she managed the Pax World International Fund and the Pax World Global Women's Equity Fund. She also ran international and global portfolios at State Street Global Advisors and Baring Asset Management, and was global equity analyst at Independence Investments and at Putnam Investments. Earlier in her career, Ivka worked as a management consultant at Arthur D. Little in the US, Latin America, and Europe, including 3 years in Prague working on Czech privatization. Ivka earned a BA degree in biology from Harvard University, a master's degree in natural resource economics from the Fletcher School at Tufts University, and an MBA from INSEAD. She speaks Czech, French, German, and Spanish. Okay, and then our next fabulous woman, Lesley Richards. Lesley is a democracy and governance professional with over 15 years of experience in electoral processes, maybe electrical processes too. She has a lot of talents. Electoral processes, rule of law, governance, civil society, and human rights. She has a proven track record in designing, implementing, and managing initiatives that promote best practices in electoral processes, institutional strengthening, capacity development, and civil society engagement, particularly with marginalized populations in post-conflict countries. Until December 2024, Lesley served as the Deputy Chief of Party for Democracy International's Strengthening Political Landscape program in Bangladesh, a role she held for 5 years. Lesley's work on gender and persons with disabilities includes developing platforms for advancing strategies among civil society organizations and government institutions to promote the rights of women and persons with disabilities. She has analyzed electoral processes in Jordan, Algeria, Morocco, and Haiti, and has managed rule of law projects in Egypt, Mexico, Colombia, Guatemala, and Haiti. Lesley holds a BA in International Studies from American University and an MA in International Administration from the University of Miami. She is fluent in French and Spanish. And last but not least, Garima Gupta is an HR and DEI leader with a proven track record for results. She is a human resource executive with over 20 years of responsible and progressive experience in HR, operations, and DEI across industries and multiple geographies, including nonprofits, fintech, legal tech, and health and education. Her professional experiences include executive-level management, strategic program management, training and employee development, resource and budget forecasting, organizational development, and employee relations. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and I have some questions to guide us as well. Oh, we have questions ready. Okay, we'll start with ours and stick them in the chat when you think of them. For anyone on the panel, what are...
I have a request, Sam. This is Garima, Meg. it would be great to kind of hear from the ladies who've joined us, just maybe a quick intro about them as well. So it makes it easy, I know, for me to be able to answer any queries that they may have of us. Just maybe a quick round of who they are and what they do. It would be great to kind of just say hello to.
Okay, ladies, let's hear from you.
Hey, good
jump.
evening.
Oh, sorry, Katie. Go ahead.
Thanks, Beth. Good evening, everyone. My name is Katie Lundy. I work with the federal U.S. government. I work in political economics for them, and I am working my way towards my SES, but it'll be a couple of years yet. Thank you.
Thanks,
Hi,
Katie.
good evening, everyone. My name is Beth Clark. I work for an organization, NetLogix. We're based in Indianapolis, but we are a fully remote team. So I have the tough job of living in St. Petersburg, Florida. It's very warm here, so I'm sorry for anybody that's really cold today. So I'm business development. I've been in sales or business development for my entire career. I transitioned about a year and a half ago to what I'm doing now, which is in the federal government space. We are project and program managers, so I'm developing business in that space. And I came out of hospitality, so it has been quite the role change for me, and a bit of an adjustment, changing from a very business to business environment to business to government. So I have learned a lot already from all of you, and I am excited about tonight's panel.
All right, Elizabeth, Colleen, or Marcia?
Sure, I'll go next. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much, Samantha and Megan, our panelists. Great to be with you. So my name is Elizabeth Williams. I'm a WLC graduate. I think it was cohort H or something like that a while ago now. But I work for the federal government as well. I'm a deputy director in the Department of Homeland Security, and I'm also finishing up my doctorate in health sciences. So I'm looking forward to graduating in May and then navigating sort of a career shift. So thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Okay. Marcia or Colleen?
This is Marcia. I'm just stopping in a bit to hear what people have to say. I'm a graduate of the Fletcher School, started the Fletcher Women's Network. Just want to be supportive of all of these efforts. I've been delighted with what Samantha has been doing, and I'm always enthusiastic about Ivka's work. And Lesley was very impressive earlier this week. So I'm just here to observe, and I thank you all for tolerating my being part of all this. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Colleen, are you with us?
She dropped a note in the chat earlier that she had to step away for maybe a couple of minutes. Sounds like she's taking care of some folks. So,
okay, is that sufficient, Garima? Okay. Well, if there are any, since I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, let's go with what are the top 2 things that you have discovered are the most important aspects of feminist leadership in relation to your journey that you'd like people to know? Panel?
Meg, would you like us to, do you want to give us a sequence, or you just want us to open up and start talking? Whatever, you're the director.
Start.
Okay. I'm happy to start this one and would pass the ball if that makes it easier for everybody. So I had done my feminist leadership course with Samantha, what now, 2 years ago, Sam? Is it 2 years? Not 2 years ago. And when I'd reached that, I'd been thinking about it for a long time. And then finally, I got the cut from I was cut off due to being laid off in an organization. And that's when I was like, okay, I have to do it now because this is kind of a pivotal moment. I'd never been laid off before, always been on the other side of the table as an HR leader. So this was kind of a painful arena in my life where not only I was laid off, but I had to design the layoff and kind of lay myself off. So it was kind of double whammy. So I reached Sam at that kind of point, and I wanted to kind of find out what kind of leader I am, what to learn from others. And I think the thing that I was seeking the most was kind of this group or this tribe that Sam helped me find in my cohort, where we were a bunch of women, where so they were all so talented, they were all doing so much, and yet feeling like we were not doing enough, or is this enough? Should I be discovering more? And that's kind of what I keep hearing from even this group of women who all seem super talented already, super achievers already. And I think that's kind of what my learning was, which I am kind of taking away in my next shift of life, which is that I think it's a good thing that we are never satisfied with wherever we've reached, because we want to achieve more, we want to do more, we want to get more. But I think also my own learning is that to kind of give myself a little bit of grace, and that's part of the feminist leadership. We are taught those values that, you know, you give away or you sacrifice, and you never praise yourself. Only the other person should look at your work and praise yourself. But I think what we discovered in our journey together, and as Sam took us for, almost 8 months, not 6 months, but 8 to 9 months. It took us a little while longer. And that's what we discovered, you know, the little things that, one of the things I remember from Sam is that when somebody compliments you, don't say, oh no, I'm not like that, or don't start explaining that it's not okay, but say thank you and accept the compliment. I mean, that's such a simple thing, right? But we all took it up, and we all found out that it was so hard for all of us, 8 women, grown-up women with kids, with, I don't know, all the life things. And so it's that part of that leadership, the feminist leadership, why we need to understand our leadership styles a little bit differently from all of the others. And I think that's the discovery path for me. I'm still on the path. I haven't discovered all of it, but it's the little things which make us different as a leader, both in our personal arena as well as our professional arena. And those were kind of the learnings that have stuck with me in you know, what we've learned together as a cohort in this class. And I'm hoping that all of you take away in yours. And pass the ball to Ivka.
Yeah, great. I mean, it's so awesome to have Marcia here, who I've known for almost over 35 years, Marcia. And to see Meg and Sam and to meet all of you. That's so amazing. I think at least from the cohort that I was in, and it sounds like you were echoing that, Garima, is that being with other really amazing, successful, brilliant women, and you know, everyone is seeking to do better and sort of feeling like we're not enough, and that can create a block. And so to figure out what you actually have, it's kind of that, it's kind of the Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz, is that you could have gone home all the time. All you had to do was click your heels together and say there's no place like home. And and I feel like just knowing to stand in your strength that you know you have, and not being afraid of that, I think was what I got out of it the most. And maybe it speaks to who we are as women leaders, is that we're so concerned about all managing everything that we forget how to be managing ourselves and taking advantage of our strengths. So so that was one thing. And related to that is, and it was, I think this happened a little bit around the time that I started in the cohort, but I had to make a really difficult change in my organization. It was because I don't like conflict, and I am used to working in a field that's almost all men and going along to get along. And it was unnatural for me to stand up and make a change that was really critical, that actually led to the success of the organization after that. And I really used my brain trust. So I feel like I have this massive brain trust of women who are all out there rooting for me, just like I'm rooting for them, and just reaching out and getting them and figuring out each one had something to add that could sort of coach me, help me through doing this. And so I felt like using the brain trust was really important. That idea of if we don't hang together, we will all hang separately. So using the brain trust. And I know that this is kind of 2.5, but it's still related. And this is not so much on the feminist side, but I think that this is also something that we might lose track of because we're always so focused on either those around us or, what is wrong with the situation or in the future, that we sort of forget to assess where we are. And I feel like that's so important for doing anything, is to figure out where you are first. Like, you can't travel someplace if you don't know what your starting point is. I feel like that's something really important in my investment decision making, is I first have to assess where we are, because I can't figure out what the future holds if I can't create that path. And so just being able to assess a situation and really being able to step back objectively and figure out which things I can control and which ones I can't, and focus on the ones that I can, and having that sort of ability to have some perspective on my own situation. And again, using the brain trust can really help you with that.
Fabulous. Now, Lesley, would you like to weigh in on this one?
Sure, yes. So I think and I agree with what the former two panelists said. So for me, I was in the actual first cohort. So I was, the sort of the guinea pig. And at the time, I was looking, as I was going up the career ladder and assuming leadership positions, I was never very comfortable. I took, quite a few leadership courses online, and was never very satisfied with the traditional hierarchical leadership structure that's presented in many of these leadership classes. I was looking for something alternative, an alternative way of leadership. Not only because I was a woman and I wanted that to come out, in my leadership style, but also because in my line of work, gender and women's empowerment and women, ensuring women in decision-making positions, and also minority groups. That was part of my the core part of my work. So I wanted to make sure that if we are talking, if I'm working with populations, I'm speaking to various different heads of states, government officials, civil societies, political parties, that I am doing it and talking about women in leadership positions and why they should empower women. I wanted to make sure to show them what feminine leadership looks like and show them something different, and how something different from the traditional hierarchical organizational culture that we know, how effective it can be, and how different is not bad, but different is good. So that's why I decided to, look for a class, and this is what the Women's Leadership Challenge provided me with, and also meeting women from several different industries and sharing challenges and, solutions. So it was a wonderful experience for me.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I see that we have an Ivka question in the chat. Ivka, can you see that?
Yes. Yeah. So I feel like the question is, is it a formal or informal process? And at least my experience is that I have so many, when I would call them close friends, and they're former colleagues, but a real affinity to them, and just reaching out. That my experience is that everyone wants to help. Everyone wants to be a part of your success. I think among women, maybe, I don't know, guys, but wants to be a part of your success without expecting anything in return except for you to pay it forward. That's my sense. And I've had some great mentors who all they wanted was my success, nothing in it for them, just that expectation that I would do the same for someone else. And so it was very informal, and just reaching out. And some people, had more to add than others, but just having people who could give me a lot of confidence in myself, basically to tell me those things that I sort of knew about myself, but again, didn't really feel, and them giving me that, no, you can do this. And if you need help, if you don't feel like you can do it, then here's some, shortcuts, this one weird trick. Like I had this, one of them just said, don't say too much. You're going to start explaining. As soon as you start explaining, you lose. You have to get to the point. So I had this big piece of paper written there that said, shut up. Just say what you're going to say and stop and embrace the silence. And that was so helpful. So anyway, I'm going outside of what the question asked, but I think that just using your network of, who are friends who just want you to succeed because we're all in it together. I felt like it's always there for all of us and we just have to use it.
Awesome. Thanks for the question, Katie. And I see there's a Garima question in there as well. Can you see that, Garima?
Yeah, I can. Thank you. If I can add one little thing to what Ivka was saying, I do think that that network that you talked about, very, very key as we continue to grow, but continue to grow your network as well. And I think this class that Sam holds, it's an amazing network of women that you get without you having to cultivate it. Sam has cultivated them for us. And everybody's rooting for each other. It's a host of women who do, I don't know, all sorts of things, from chefs to political leaders to financial leaders, to everybody that you can think of, and you can ask a question and you're definite to get an answer, which is not Google answer, but an answer by women who've experienced it, who've done it, who probably know how to do it better than what Google would tell you. So that's part of, attending this wonderful cohort of classes as well. So Katie, thank you for that question that you asked. And I'm going to say that I wasn't all cool about what happened to me over there. So in my personal space, I was kind of hyperventilating and I was kind of pitying myself a little bit to say, how could that happen? Like, I'm such a good worker and I work so hard and I'm working 4 jobs in one. How could that happen to me? Like, how you feel like you're indispensable and you can't, how will the team live? I was managing a team of 55 plus people globally in EMEA, in APAC, as well as here. So, that feeling of how could they? But anyway, once I got over it, I think my focus was to protect my team. My focus was to make sure that the work gets done in a manner that even when I'm not there, my team can continue without me. And so I focus a lot of my attention on the other people and not on myself, and focused a lot on getting the work done. That is what I am known for on all my teams, and making sure that I'm assigning mentors and coaches, even if I'm gone, because there would have been a gap of managers, that my team has managers whom they could go to ask questions. Because I couldn't tell my team till the very end that I'm one of the people who's going to get impacted. So it helped me. One of the things it definitely helped me do was give me perspective to make sure that I truly do understand what people in the shoes feel like when they are being laid off. And it helped me create a script which was much more meaningful and not just robotic and legalistic, but more what I would like to hear if I'm on the other side of, which I know I would have been on the other side. And also advocate that the leadership team really focuses on things which, sometimes we take for granted. So the outplacement for people who've been working in that organization for 20 plus years, so they didn't even know how to build a resume, how to do this networking, how to use their network. And so how to use some of those things which organizations these days, I mean, you're hearing that AI is doing layoffs, or you're being laid off publicly, by being told that you are a low performing worker, which what Meta is trying to do right now for 3,000 plus workers. All sorts of things are happening. It is how you do it, because the fact of the matter was it was happening whether I was there or not. How did I leverage what I had, what I could add value while I was there, is where my focus went. And I think that helped me kind of get through that phase, which felt like a very, very difficult phase at that point of time.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Oh, and we have a good response. Nice. Thanks for the response too, Katie. So it looks like Sam has temporarily dropped off, but I'm sure she'll be back momentarily. Um, I just want to chime in and add that networking was something that I really struggled with. That really, um, networking was something that I really struggled with, and got some help with, in the WLC as well. That was one of the main things that I was there to try to learn how to do better. And it was super, super helpful. I kind of started out with this thought I'm supposed to contact these randos, and like who wants to meet with me for like no apparent reason, just so I can hit them up for job contacts and whatnot. And it really kind of changed my head about how to go about networking. And it kind of changed from, um, some rando doesn't want to meet me to who wouldn't want to meet me? I'm fun, damn it. And also that I had things to offer to people who are, looking for professional contacts or advice too. That, even if it wasn't in my area of expertise, I have a lot of opinions, and and I also know people that I can put in contact as well. And so it is actually two-sided, and I didn't really realize that until, I got into this, more comfortable situation for it. So it's a good, incubator for these skills. All right. Next question. What has been difficult for you in your journey in the last decade that you're comfortable sharing publicly? And what do you wish people knew here? Shall we hear from Lesley first, since we haven't heard from Lesley quite as much? Is that okay?
Okay, sure, yes. So what has been difficult in the past decade? God, there's so much. Yes, I think it is, to be honest, believe it or not, it is very hard, is actually learning to say no and learning to set boundaries. That is, your sort of moving up. Everybody wants to move up in their career, you're going up the career ladder, and you want to take on everything, and you don't want to say no, and you don't set boundaries, and then you find yourself sort of getting burnt out. So I think you have to work smartly and strategically. You can still be effective. You don't have to take on everything. You definitely have to set boundaries. You have to learn to say no. And you have to, what is very important, you have to have the work-life balance, because, you can't produce anything if you're burnt out. And somebody once told me her aunt, this is in California, that her aunt worked for this company for 20 years or a long time. And that when she, and she worked around the clock, she worked on weekends, she missed important family events. And when her aunt finally retired, they replaced her with 2 people. So, had she set boundaries, maybe they would have done that earlier while she was still at the company. So yeah, so that's what I've learned in the last 10 years.
Awesome. Garima or Ivka? Want to take a swing at this one?
Sure. Well, I think I already touched on it, but dealing with some really difficult people with borderline personality disorders, where there's really no easy strategy except to get away as far away from them as you can. But the interim time of when you're trying to deal with that is very painful. I'm not sure what I learned, except what I said before was basically figuring out where my power was. I mean, I have two companies, one that I started with my husband 10 years ago, and then Promethos, both had some issues in this realm. And so figuring out, you know, in the case of my husband's company, we actually ended up having to go the legal route because there was no other way. And that was really painful, but sort of, again, knowing where you are and figuring out where I was. And, you know, the first response is always, this is not right. This is so wrong. How can this be happening? How can this person be so horrible? And sort of, you know, or in asset management, thinking about, you know, why is it that women, you know, only manage, you know, a little over 1% of assets, you know, like there was that Meg read my bio, and, you know, the incentive for starting Promethos was because I was running the #1 fund in my category. And asset management, you guys, I don't want to do, like, if you don't know the area, it can just sound like a bunch of buzzwords, but I was managing an international strategy in my category where they compare you to peers. I was managing the #1 fund. That sort of alpha female report that looked at, you know, the best female managers in the world, all of the women on that list were managing the #1 funds in their peer groups. And yet their assets under management were about 1/10 of the equivalent men, right? So I was making a ton of money for my clients and no one gave a shit. And I thought, there's something wrong with this picture and I can't do it on the inside. But I was so frustrated, you know, kept going like, this is not fair. And these guys are a bunch of idiots. And I'm tired of working with the guys, as opposed to thinking like, what can I do about it? What can I do about it? And so that was the whole incentive for starting Promethos. But in hindsight, you know, I mean, I'm glad that I did it. Absolutely, but maybe a little bit for the wrong reasons, because I feel like if you just go and it's like, right, if that's the decision, it feels good for about 10 minutes. And after that, it's like, now what? And then the real work starts. And so really focusing on the positive side, as opposed to just wanting to get out of that really destructive environment and creating my own, and thinking about what can I do that's really positive, right? You know, now I have a blank sheet of paper, and I actually, I have no one to blame but myself if things go wrong. So taking that responsibility and building it out and thinking like, I'm here for a lot of reasons. If I want to change the business, I certainly can't do it alone, at least not, you know, starting out a new company. You're just a tiny little pimple relative to these massive, you know, asset managers. And so you can't really change the nature of the business easily. But the way that we did it was, we have really this huge internship program. So we hire, so we've had now 6 seasons of interns. We take 5 to 6 interns, almost all of them women and people of color, bring them into the industry where otherwise they would not get that first step in, because everyone's hiring people just like them. So, and now some of those early cohorts now have really great jobs in the industry. So having that impact, so what can I do to make a difference because I decided to do this? So, you know, turning that sort of just anger and dissatisfaction into what can I do that's positive, besides just keeping my head down, being a good manager, which I am, and I know that, and my numbers show that, and my clients now, that's why I've gone from 0 to almost $1 billion in assets that I manage for, you know, a lot of, you know, teachers and firefighters and public employees. And, you know, and so that part I know I'm good at, but I really want to make a difference and really change the way the world thinks about investing. And so it's just sort of keeping, what I've learned is just keep the focus on what do I want to achieve next, as opposed to what's wrong with the picture. Sorry, I'm very verbose. I apologize.
I think we're all here to hear your perspective, so that's useful to hear the full perspective. And I don't think I've ever seen you give the visual aids before. That was that alone is worth the price of admission today. For those of you joining us, Ivka and I were in the same cohort. So I actually had a lot of opportunities to see that, and I never did. All right. Let's see. I see we have some questions piling up. How about Garima? Do you want to take a quick swing at this one to get everyone's perspective, and then we'll go into the chat?
I think Lesley and Ivka covered quite a bit of a ground, so we can continue to move on.
Oh, okay. Great. The first one I see here is for Lesley. About boundaries. Are you seeing that, Lesley?
Yes, I did. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, very easier said than done. But so I think is what one has to do is I think you first have to be, and it's and oftentimes we have that problem also personally also it seeps into your personal life. And I think you need to be sort of direct and clear. And that's the problem. If you're not clear and direct, people don't actually realize that you're saying no. So you can say something like, thank you for considering me for this project, this task, whatever, but however, right now I'm working on X, Y, and Z, therefore, I can't take it on. And sometimes, don't really have to give your reasons, but in a professional setting, you do have to give it, personally, you don't have to give a reason. You can just say, well, no, I just can't. But professionally, you have to give a reason. You can't just say no. So, you explain your reasons and you just say that if I take on an additional task, that will I don't want to compromise the outcome or the deliverables or the quality of what, of my current task or the task that you're asking me to do or the project that you asked me to do. And then you can offer alternatives, just say, however, maybe I will be available if you delegate it, and also offer alternatives that why don't you delegate it to so-and-so? And, I'd be more than happy, if necessary, I can help out with the person, whomever you delegate it with. So I think just being clear and concise, giving them alternatives and suggesting that suggesting people whom they should delegate the task or project to. So I hope I answered that question, but it's a lot easier said than done. So I understand exactly where you're coming from.
Thanks. I think that was a great answer. I think the next question was an Ivka question. How tough on you was it to pursue the legal route?
Oh, it was horrible. Yeah, I strongly discourage it, but it was the only way. So sometimes you have to, again, do things that are the worst possible decision, except for the alternative. And I would say that is not a route that I would advise anyone, but that's what we had to do. And it worked out. So, but
I'm glad
we had
to
all the
hear that.
facts and the data on our side, but it was very painful, I have to say.
Absolutely. Did we have one more? Am I missing one? I thought there might have been one more. Okay. If I am, then interrupt me. Otherwise, I'll ask. You were a member of the Women's Leadership Challenge. What was valuable about the experience for you? And we've touched on this a little bit, but anything else you'd like to say about it? Let's start with Garima.
I think I kind of did a little bit of the top 3 things that I think you get out of doing the Women's Leadership Challenge. What I would say is that, do it for your own reasons. Obviously, everybody's reasons are different. Mine was to find out what is really my leadership style and, being also a feminist. What does it truly mean? Because sometimes being a feminist is seen as kind of this negative word rather than seeing it. And how do I see this presented in a more positive light? Those were all of my reasons. And I think what I wanted to get out was that so many women feel that, despite achieving so much, despite doing so much, despite being so much, that they're still less than or not enough. And how do I kind of take that forward and help women feel more than enough, that whatever you are doing, whatever you're giving, whatever you possess, that mindset of abundance, that was kind of what I wanted to kind of take away and learn how to kind of pass it forward. If I do have that, that's my principle as well in mentorship, both from being a mentor or kind of finding a mentor, that how do I pass that forward? So those were kind of my benefits. And I also did say that you get a wonderful community of women that may not be easy for you to gather in one go, which Sam has gathered by kind of taking us all through the WLC. And so that's available to so many of us who become part of these cohorts. And you obviously your lovely cohort mates like Meg and Ivka in this case, and they were tag teaming. And so we all have that. And it's just great to know that you've got support of these wonderful women who comes from all walks of life.
I love it. Let's see. Let's go back to Lesley.
Okay, sure. I also touched on it, but I think it's the extensive network of women from different industries, because you tend to, if you are, sort of like a workaholic, you tend to sort of gravitate to people in your industry. So the Women's Leadership Challenge, afforded me to meet women, powerful women, interesting women in total different industries, and learn about other industries, which was very helpful. And what I thought was most important was that's why I encourage everybody, if you have the opportunity and make the time to take it, because once you finish, however long the class is, 6 months, 8 months, a year, however long that it is, it doesn't end there. After you complete the course, you have this great cohort, sort of group of women that you can tap into. Samantha's very good at linking people, doing the donuts, and encouraging everybody to connect with each other. So you can put a question. I put a question in the chat. This is, a couple of months ago. Does anybody have information? Have you worked with this organization? And, once there was somebody said, yes, I did, let's have a chat. So we had a chat offline. So the beauty of this Women's Leadership Challenge is that you have a resource, a database, a resource of women and information that you can always tap in to, probably for the rest, knowing Samantha, this would be, for, many, many, many years to come. So you can't get that anywhere else.
All right. Ivka, do you want to weigh in on this one? And then we'll go to the next question for everybody.
Yeah, I think it's mostly that I share exactly the same sentiments. The only thing to add is also, I guess, generational cohorts, which was also very interesting because, as you remember, Meg, in our cohort, we had, going from a very recent grad in data science to, me being the old lady and everything in between, and also not just industries, but also different types of roles and in those industries, and also family situations. So that was, to me, that was incredibly edifying in terms of how everyone sort of takes what life hands them and manages it. And so I think that was also really just wonderful, because it's easy in your day-to-day life, as you said, Lesley, is to sort of just to get your work done, is to really focus on, you build your own walls to make your life easier. So that really was very, very perspective expanding for me.
I don't think you were the old lady. I think I was the old lady.
We'll talk about that. You're a whippersnapper.
I don't think that's true, but I appreciate that. Well, I'm actually in my mid-50s. I just look fabulous and youthful. It's genetic. All right. So there's a question in the chat as well. I'm sure all three of you have seen it by now, about mentoring. Who wants to hop in on that first? What do you think?
I mean, maybe I'll take a crack. Yeah, because that's a big thing. I think that is so important because, I didn't have, in the beginning of my career, I wish I did. And I, had very few mentors, if any, quite frankly, at all. But in the field I work, so for me, it's very, very important to mentor people. So if I am, any organization I'm working for, I, try to, mentor people if asked, or, or even if not asked, I provide information, say, hey, what about this? How are things going? And, I tend not to, tell, because everybody's personality is different. So everybody has a different leadership style. So I often don't like to say, okay, this is the format, especially me where I work in different, cultures and different contexts. So what works in one culture won't necessarily work in another culture. So I sort of don't want to go into this one model fits all. So is what I look at the individual, identify their strengths and tell them, okay, this is your strength. This is what you should work on, and and then I don't like to use the word weaknesses, but you should also maybe excel in these other areas also, and so that's how I put it. But I tend not to sort of be very format, have a format and this is what you must do and that's what is it. But I think what's very, very, very important is to listen and then to guide as they navigate their careers and navigate the various different tasks that they have. Be a listening ear and then provide very constructive feedback. I find feedback oftentimes that people offer is not constructive, so it's very important how you word it and when it is given. So that's my approach, how I try to mentor, especially young women.
Nice. Garima or Ivka, you want to hop in on this one?
Sure, I'll jump in and maybe if you have something else to add. I think like Lesley, what I would say is that my belief in mentorship is that it belongs to the mentee or who wants to be mentored. And so what they need from you is what you try to give. So sometimes they want advice, sometimes they have specific questions about specific areas, and that's what you try to cover with them. And you help them kind of get to the point where they are wanting to get to. I think mentorship allows people to kind of get a different perspective on an idea that they may be thinking. So I may be thinking about X in a certain way, but if she's my mentor, she may think about it completely from a different perspective from the field she's working in or her life circumstances. So I think I try to keep it really loose, but I do, if I start a mentoring relationship, I do tell them that this is your time. How do you want to use it will be on you. I do like to, the only structure that I do like to create is kind of we decide that how frequently we would meet, what's the cadence of meeting, and what, maybe we meet half an hour every other week or every other month or whatever, that decision is depending on where we want to reach and how many. I think it's what I've found is that unlimited anything doesn't work. And so giving kind of a little bit of a timeline to it to say, let's try this for 3 months, and then we'll see at the end of 3 months whether this would work or not. So I think formalizing those kind of things usually work out, but otherwise the structure itself of what will be discussed is up to the person who's getting mentored. And I have seen, I've been mentored by my previous CEO and another person and so on and so forth. And I've often found that different mentors have different styles, but they usually expect that you bring to them what you would like to be mentored on. And so you have to do the homework. You have to make sure that it's different from coaching, but it has elements of that definitely when you go to a senior person and you're trying to be mentored.
Thanks.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of discussion a few years ago about, women don't need mentors, they need advocates. It sounds like, I'm just not sure about that. Everyone is different, as you said, Garima. And so we all have our styles, and I always feel like, first of all, if it's someone like our interns who are really, most of them are younger than my kids, and so they see the world, and it's just a different world for them than it was for me when I was going through what they're going through. So I want to respect that and just figure out what it is that is in the way of them getting to where I think they could get to if that's what they want to do. Very specific in my industry. So maybe just like in our cohort is, as one member of many, as an observer, you can see where everyone's blocks are that they don't see, but everyone else sees, right? And maybe trying to point those out, not, that's the wrong way to say it, but just to provide them the confidence that they seem to be lacking in getting to that place that they should be able to get to, and they just don't see it. So that's the only thing that I feel like I have to offer, besides just answering questions or providing a lot. I have a massive network connecting them to other people that they could, get a different perspective for me, that will help them figure out what path they want to go in their lives, but also trying to figure out it's a two-way street, because again, they live in a different world. Their world is different, and I benefit from understanding that perspective. So also just being really open to what they can tell me about their evolution and their goals, and and rather than say no, that's not what you should do, is actually say, wow, okay, I didn't even think of that way, right? And so maybe I need to readjust. So I feel like the mentor-mentee, to me, it's more, it's a two-way street, and just trying to plug those gaps that everyone has. I think that we all have, again, as women, where we have certain blockages that we need somebody to, to help us get through.
Ivka, thank you so much. And I just want to thank, I know Garima has a hard stop at 8. So I just want to thank the three of you. It's always humbles me to know that, that you all decided to enroll in the Women's Leadership Challenge. And it's just been so amazing just seeing you all succeed in so many ways, both personally and professionally. I want to let Garima jump, and then I will close us out if Lesley and if you don't mind staying one more minute.
Thank you, everybody. It was a pleasure. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Garima.
Bye. Take care.
So I just want to close us out by saying, if we think about a powerful feminist leader in 2025 and what that means, and really knowing that Ivka, Lesley, and Meg, thank you for holding the torch, really personify this. And I mentioned that feminist leadership is kind of evolving in terms of what does it even mean. So here's my definition. A feminist leader stands firmly in her values, knows her worth, and uses her voice and influence to create positive change. She is unshakable in her belief in herself, resilient in the face of challenges, and confident in her ability to lead with authenticity. A powerful woman does not shy away from difficult conversations or decisions. Instead, a feminist leader faces them head on with grace and determination. Her power lies in her ability to inspire, to uplift, and connect with others, using her strength not to dominate, but to empower. She is empathetic yet assertive, strategic yet compassionate, and bold yet thoughtful. A feminist leader recognizes that true strength comes not just from individual achievements, but from fostering collaboration and driving collective progress. She dismantles internalized patriarchal and external patriarchal norms, challenges societal constraints, and redefines leadership on her terms, fueled by authenticity, cultural intelligence, and an unwavering commitment to equality, to justice, and to lifting up other women. So I just wanted to say that to, Ivka, Lesley, and Meg, all really embody that. And those are the women who take the Women's Leadership Challenge. And I've seen all of you really just step into your power in so many ways. Just hearing Ivka, you talking about kind of taking on those challenging things and that difficult relationship that I know was plaguing you at the beginning and just stepping in. And Meg learning to love networking, or maybe not love it, but at least not despise it anymore, and realize how amazing she is. Lesley, you know, just seeing you become the most serious gender expert ever in Southeast Asia, and leading the charge in women's political participation. I'm incredibly proud, and also Ivka's, you know, seeing your firm blow up from when it was just a hope and a dream and a couple employees to, I can't even remember how many millions of dollars in assets is it now? 800 million, something like that?
Yeah, almost $1 billion.
Oh my God. $1 billion in assets. You know, it's just amazing, and I'm so proud and delighted. So I just want to thank all of you for your insight and your continuing feminist leadership in the world. As we know, Trump does take office tomorrow, and we do have a hard 4 years ahead of us. And there are challenges that are going to present themselves that we need to overcome. And there's also going to be opportunities. And part of the next 4 years is trying to figure out where can we leverage opportunities and, you know, creatively resist and still move forward despite obstacles, learn how to foster resilience in ourselves and in others. One shining light that just happened was that Biden advocated for ratification of the ERA. Tomorrow, I thought in the Ask Me Anything session, where I'm going to just be holding an Ask Me Anything session where you can ask about, you know, coaching stuff. We could talk about boundaries again. We could talk about, you know, whatever coaching questions you have. You can ask about the WLC if that's of interest to you. But I also am going to do some research on the ERA and what the, you know, what that looks like in terms of Biden's agreement to ratify it, even if the archives hasn't, and what impact that could have, because that's pretty, it's actually extremely major, the Equal Rights Amendment. So on that note, just a reminder, if you are interested in the Women's Leadership Challenge, like I said, I'm taking $1,000 off the price of the course if you schedule your discovery call by Wednesday. So all you have to do is schedule a call with me. If it ends up being a fit for you, I will take that off of the course. If it doesn't, that's okay. You'll still get a lot of insight from the call itself, because we'll go over your strengths, your weaknesses, your room to grow, what your path forward could look like, even if it's not the Women's Leadership Challenge. I'm really committed to helping all of you. So yep, tomorrow is the Ask Me Anything session, which is going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And let me just play this. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then our last class, Puppy is saying hello. Hello, puppy. And then the last class is going to be on Tuesday with Dominique Narciso, who is a high performance coach and another alum of the Women's Leadership Challenge. She's in Australia. Her wife's a diplomat. She's awesome. And so let's close out today, as we usually do. One insight from today's session. One insight from today's session. Doing the hard things, even if it was daunting, is so key. Yeah, I was listening to Glennon Doyle's podcast. We can do hard things today, and it's great. Glennon Doyle's book Untamed is at the beginning of WLC. It's amazing. Giving yourself grace and praise. I know it's so awkward because we're all taught to be so humble, and unfortunately, doesn't work in America. You gotta, you know, toast your own praise, or boast about yourself. Yeah, anything from the panelists, any insights you wanted to share after kind of reflecting and listening?
I thought that Garima talking about how she, did the right thing and did the best thing for all of her group, even though it wasn't the best for her. Sometimes that's the hardest decision to make. So I thought that was inspiring for sure. And sometimes what life requires of you. And I'm sure it will have a lot of positive externalities over time. It's just, you know, sometimes in the moment it can be really difficult, but doing the difficult things is sometimes what pays the biggest dividends down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Lesley?
Yeah, and first of all, yeah, and I'd agree with, you know, doing what was right. And I think that was a true sign, what Garima did, that's a true sign of a feminist leader, where it's, you know, and it resonates with your definition, Samantha. I thought that really resonated with me. That encapsulates so well how I want my leadership to be. So I'd love to, if you could send that to the group.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Great. It just encapsulates everything. I think that's something I will post up on my wall every day and read it.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Well, thanks for coming, Beth, Katie. Thanks for getting the All-Star Attendance Awards for coming every night. And hopefully I'll be able to chat with both of you privately, because I'd love to, you know, get to know you better. And we will see you tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye. Have a good evening.
Bye.